The moment Prince Harry opened his mouth, everything cracked. Not a rumor, not speculation, not palace whispers floating in the dark. This was different. This was Harry himself, standing there, exposed, stripped of the royal armor he had worn his entire life, and saying something that didn't just shock the royal family, it terrified the empire he had built with Meghan Markle. Because for the first time, Harry didn't sound like a protector. He sounded like a man waking up.
Insiders are revealing to me the true story of how Meghan Markle failed.
Oprah's interview when her credibility went down just as Boris Johnson's eyebrow.
I feel like Meghan's rebrand is just to say, I'm a victim. And she's about as far from a victim as you could possibly get.
In a deliberate attempt to terrorize her long-suffering husband, Prince Harry.
Again, I have to be careful what I say, but that I won't be able to show, my children my home.
It was the interview nobody saw coming. The moment that made people stop mid-crawl and say, wait, what is really happening with Harry and Meghan? For years, Harry rode for Meghan no matter what. Every headline, every scandal, every fight with the palace. When the media called them rebels one day, something shifted in Harry. And in what many are calling his most exposed, most unguarded moment. Yet he finally opened up about what went down behind palace doors and what Meghan did that changed him. People close to him are saying this is the first time he's spoken without fear, without someone guiding every word, without Meghan shaping the message. That last line, it hung in the air like a loaded weapon, without Meghan shaping the message. Think about that. For years, every interview, every Netflix confession, every carefully choreographed moment felt like part of a shared performance. Every tear, every accusation, every carefully timed release built a narrative so polished it felt untouchable. But now something was slipping, and the world could see it.
Like, I curtsied as though I was like, pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty. Like, was that okay?
It's really quite sad.
One of the strongest arguments about their relationship is that she's a dominant narcissistic woman that tricked him into doing all this.
The polished fairy tale image, it's cracking wide open. The world watched him go from the fun, confident prince everyone loved into a man who looks drained, distant, and cut off from everything he once knew. And according to one insider who spoke to The Telegraph, Harry is finally seeing things clearly. The insider claims he recognized the manipulation, the pressure, the quiet reshaping of his life piece by piece. For someone who always tried to act strong, that realization hit hard. That realization didn't explode overnight. It crept in slowly, quietly.
And our culture of victimhood is really then a culture of narcissism. And Harry and Meghan are its perfect representatives because they are now king and queen victims.
Especially when he's on the BBC saying that it's not safe enough for my family in the UK.
Why make Harry confront and distance himself from his brother William? Those are the questions that only match a narcissist pattern.
Like a crack spreading through glass before the shatter. It started at what was supposed to be just another harmless appearance. A wellness summit in California. Cameras flashing. Polite applause. Carefully rehearsed smiles. Harry walked in wearing the familiar mask. But he didn't leave wearing it, because then the question came. A simple question. A devastating question.
Women, please go back to California and be with your children and go and find a career other than just being desperate for attention every single day.
Do you ever feel like you lost yourself in love? Harry froze. His smile faded. He let out a long, heavy sigh that filled the room. Then he said, there was a time I didn't even recognize the man in the mirror anymore. I thought I was finding freedom, but sometimes freedom feels like a cage. Silence. You could feel the air shift. Those words, freedom, feels like a cage hit like a shock.
Surprise, surprise, it was Meghan Markle.
You keep saying Meghan Markle, you know I'm Sussex now. I like working hard.
Wave. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Social media exploded. Comment sections went wild. freedom feels like a cage. He didn't say her name, he didn't need to, because everyone knew exactly who lived inside that cage with him.
But whenever there's a power imbalance, and that's what we are looking at here, no matter how much chemistry they have at first, it will be increasingly harder to last.
He sat in Montecito, twiddling his thumbs, thinking, what do I do next? What is my role? Where is my work?
Within minutes, royal insiders, critics, loyalists, and enemies alike began dissecting every syllable like forensic evidence. Because that wasn't just a poetic line, that was a confession. Everyone knew who he met, even though he never said her name. People replayed the video over and over, analyzing every pause, every breath, every flicker in his eyes. Royal commentators broke down each sentence. Psychologists weighed in. Former aides quietly spoke to tabloids. One source told the Daily Mail, that's the closest he's ever come to admitting regret. Regret. That word hit harder than any royal scandal before it, because Harry had burned bridges for Meghan. He walked away from his family, his country, his legacy, everything. And now insiders were whispering something unthinkable. What if he was questioning it? What if the prince who once declared war on the palace was now fighting something much closer? Something inside his own home. Bigger moves, bigger spotlight. Harry, on the other hand, wanted something simple, quiet, stability, peace of mind. He's worn down. One insider put it straight. He's tired of being the prop, the spokesman, the husband who always nods. The husband who always nods. That line alone sent shockwaves through royal watchers because it painted a picture no one wanted to admit. Not a prince leading his life, but a prince following someone else's script. And the pressure wasn't subtle, it was constant. Deals, contracts, appearances, every word calculated, every move strategic, every silence intentional. Until one day, Harry stopped nodding and started thinking, the one stepping in to protect Meghan from what he saw as a harsh and outdated royal system. He truly felt he was saving her, but now that belief seems to be shifting slowly and maybe painfully. He appears to be realizing something deeper. What if he was the one who needed saving all along? That realization didn't just hurt. It destroyed the narrative because Harry wasn't supposed to question the escape. He wasn't supposed to doubt the freedom. He wasn't supposed to look back. But he did, and the palace noticed. Because while Harry drifted further from London, something strange was happening. Life moved on without him. King Charles stood firm. Prince William grew stronger. The institution he once rejected survived without him. And Harry? He stood in California, surrounded by luxury, yet somehow more isolated than ever. Publicly, he still said the right things, he still smiled, still appeared beside Meghan, still protected the image. But privately, something had changed. Observers began noticing the subtle signs, the quieter body language, the distant gaze, the longer pauses. He looked like a man trapped between two realities, not fully belonging to the past, not fully comfortable in the present. And then came the moment that terrified everyone in their inner circle. Because Harry didn't just hint anymore. He said something far more dangerous. He spoke the truth. He admitted something raw, something uncontrollable, something Meghan could not rewrite. Healing means telling the truth even when it hurts the people you love. Those words didn't just echo, they detonated. Because for the first time, Harry wasn't protecting the image, he was protecting himself. And that changed everything. Insiders say the reaction behind closed doors was immediate. Phones ringing, messages flying, damage control activated. Because once truth escapes, it can't be recaptured. And the most terrifying part, Harry didn't apologize. He didn't retract. He didn't correct himself. He stayed silent, calm, steady. Like a man who had finally stopped running. And that silence spoke louder than any confession. Because now the world wasn't asking if something was wrong. They were asking something far worse. Was this the beginning of Harry breaking free? Or the beginning of everything falling apart? Behind the gates of Montecito, the silence became louder than any argument. Because when a man stops defending the illusion begins defending itself. Harry had said the words. They were out, permanent, uncontainable. And inside that $14 million mansion, insiders say the atmosphere turned cold. Not explosive, not chaotic, controlled, calculated. Because Meghan didn't panic publicly. She strategized privately. But the damage had already begun spreading. That was the moment insiders say everything changed. Because Harry always apologized before. Always corrected himself. Always retreated. But this time, he didn't. He stood still, emotionally immovable, like a man no longer afraid of the consequences, and Meghan noticed. Observers say the shift in their dynamic became visible almost immediately. Harry began appearing alone more often, speaking less, watching more, listening more, thinking more. And when a man starts thinking clearly after years of emotional noise, everything becomes dangerous. That wasn't just reflection. That was rebellion. Not loud rebellion, quiet rebellion. The kind that terrifies people the most. Because quiet rebellion cannot be controlled. Insiders say Meghan understood exactly what it meant. Not because he attacked her, but because he stopped protecting the shared narrative. And when the shared narrative cracks, the empire trembles. Because their empire wasn't built on silence, it was built on storytelling. Carefully crafted storytelling. And now Harry was stepping outside of it. Alone. 6 words. 6 devastating words. I just told the truth. Truth is the most dangerous weapon in a controlled narrative. Because truth cannot be negotiated, cannot be edited, cannot be erased. And insiders say that response shook Meghan more than anything else. Because Harry wasn't asking permission anymore. He wasn't asking approval. He wasn't asking forgiveness. He was simply existing as himself. And that version of Harry was unpredictable. The internet noticed immediately. Comment sections exploded, millions of people analyzing his eyes, his tone, his pauses, and one observation kept appearing over and over again. He looked relieved. Not broken, relieved. As if a weight he had carried for years had finally fallen off his shoulders. But relief for Harry meant panic for the brand, because their brand relied on unity, on shared purpose, on synchronized messaging. And now that synchronization was breaking down. Fix it now. But it was already too late. The world had seen the real Harry, not the prince, not the brand, not the symbol, the man. And the man looked exhausted. Because behind the Netflix deals, behind the interviews, behind the headlines, was someone who had sacrificed everything in pursuit of freedom, only to realize freedom came with its own cage. That line hit harder than any royal scandal, because it revealed something deeper than marriage tension. Identity loss. Harry wasn't just questioning Meghan, he was questioning himself, questioning his choices, questioning his purpose, questioning everything. And insiders say that self-questioning has only intensified. He began reconnecting with old friends, old memories, old versions of himself, the version that existed before California, before Netflix, before the global war with the palace, before Meghan. Not because he regretted loving her, but because he was trying to find himself again. And that search cannot be controlled. Stopped being me. That confession didn't trend worldwide. But insiders say it terrified the inner circle more than anything else because it confirmed something irreversible. Harry wasn't just reflecting, he was awakening. And awakening changes everything. Because once a man remembers who he truly is, he cannot unknow it. He cannot unsee it. He cannot return to the illusion. And now the palace is watching, Hollywood is watching, Meghan is watching, and most importantly, Harry is watching himself. carefully, quietly, reclaiming pieces of his identity one moment at a time. Not loudly, not dramatically, but undeniably. Because this isn't about divorce. This isn't about scandal. This is about identity, about control, about truth. And the most dangerous question now isn't whether Harry loves Meghan. The most dangerous question is, what happens when Harry finally loves himself more? Because once that happens, everything changes. And this time, no one can control what comes next.